17th edition of Auto Talk. I am your host, Ed Welsh, and for the rest of this hour, we'll be discussing matters that are of pertinence to you and your automobile. As always, we impart to you some useful automotive information and hope to get some automotive conversation going on this April 1st Saturday. And yes, I think this is an April Fool's joke. We're getting some snow, but it's no joke. Hopefully this is Mother Nature's final joke on us, so to speak, for the season. I do love the wintertime, but when it's over, it's over. It should have been over a couple of weeks ago, right? Hey, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, but first, we want to get to our car care tip of the week. It's got to do with the affordability of car repairs. According to a recent survey by AAA, 64 million of us would not be able to pay for an unexpected vehicle repair without going into debt. That is a big, big, big thought process. I could not imagine that number being so high. Let's face it, we all get caught short on cash once in a while. But 64 million people could not afford to pay cash for a car repair. Now, what does that really mean? Well, first of all, according to our surveys, it costs more on average to drive a car and own a car than it probably hasn't forever. But right now, that number is about $8,500 a year to own and operate a vehicle. And if you think about that size of the expense, it's really no secret that it's very hard to have money left over to pay for repairs. So what do you do with that? Well, think about it. I mean, every piece of that budget goes someplace. I mean, you got insurance premiums, you got fuel costs, you've got routine maintenance and repair, of course, and you've got the cost of the vehicle itself if you're making car payments. Now, the other side of the coin is the average cost of a repair bill, and that's not exactly going down either. Again, according to the survey, the average repair bill for the United States is between $500 and $600. So that is a rather large expense if you think about it. And you start breaking it down, you say, well, it doesn't cost that much for an oil change. Well, of course not. But when you talk about componentry in some of our cars today, and you look at what things cost, it all adds up pretty quick. And when we start looking at things, for example, like a simple brake repair can cost $400 or $500. An alternator or starter replacement can cost $400, $500, $600. And a timing belt, depending on a car, could actually run between $400 and $900, depending on what you're driving. That's not cheap. And I think the other problem is that in many cases, people may not be aware of we'll just say the maintenance needs of their vehicle, but they also may not be thinking about what it's going to need in 15, 20, or 30,000 miles. Now, of course, one solution that people have employed, and maybe that's why leasing's become so popular, almost a third of all the cars on the road are leased now. Well, if you stay under the mileage cap, you pretty much don't have any maintenance costs during the first 3 years of ownership. Matter of fact, some car companies actually even pay for the oil changes. But for the most part, you're changing the oil and rotating the tires, and that's about it. And at the end of 3 months, or 36,000 miles, the end of your lease, for example, you just turn the vehicle in and get another one. Well, that is one way to avoid car repairs cost. But let's face it, most of us do not drive just 10,000 miles a year. Most leases are 10,500 miles, and after that, it costs a lot more to lease a car. So if you are owning your own car, like most of us do, well, then at some point, you have to make car repairs. And what you hope that happens is that you don't have to make real expensive ones until after the car is paid for. Then at the very least, you're looking at a different, we'll just say, paradigm for car ownership once it's paid for. But do you have the discipline to take care of your car until it's paid for? And do you have the discipline to actually do all the scheduled maintenance to help prevent costly repairs down the road? For example, you take a brake job, for example. You can change the brake pads when they're 3/4 worn. And that particular expense would be a lot less than having to replace the rotors and everything attached to them, for example. Things like alternators and starters generally work until they don't work. If they just go, they go. But usually, there's no maintenance on a sealed electronic component like that. So what maintenance do you do on those items? Well, you keep a good battery in there, and you keep your car in good running conditions so that those particular items are not being taxed so much. But the real bottom line is, when you go to get a car repair, what is it you are exactly going to be able to do about it? Well, there's a couple of things. During the past year, 2016, AAA helped over 32 million people break down at the side of the road. That's a lot of breakdowns. And so if you want to avoid, I guess, trying to deal with these costs, there's a couple of things. Now, first of all, try to budget. We recommend budgeting about $50 a month for car care repair. In other words, put $50 away every month if you can. This way, you've got the cash on hand if the vehicle does break down or when it needs service work. Obviously, get a good sense of what your maintenance requirements are for the vehicle. In other words, if you sat down with your owner's manual and wrote a plan of what you would have to do to the car to follow the manufacturer's recommendations, and then look at the cost of that, and then try to budget accordingly. Things like tire rotations and oil changes, that should be on your list. And if you're budgeting at $50 a month, perhaps you would have the cash just to cover that as you move forward. But when a car does break down, which is inevitable, every car breaks eventually. Obviously you have to figure out ahead of time who you're going to do business with. We recommend that you start asking your families and friends where they get their car fixed. And of course, AAA can help. We have approved repair shops throughout the area. Those places are inspected by us and offer some protections as a consumer that you can very much count on when you're in there. But regardless of where you go, if you're faced with an unexpected repair, number one, ask for a written estimate for the repair and clarify with the shop the work that needs to be done. If you're not so sure about what they're telling you, get a second opinion. Negotiate with the repair shop. If a person says to you, hey, it's going to cost you $500, just say, well, explain to me what the costs are. And of course, they're going to go through the parts, they're going to go through the estimate, see if you can get a discount. Sometimes shops will offer you a discount. Even if it's 10 or 15% off, that could add up. That could add up to be a lot. But these are the things you need to look at. Don't just, feel like a victim. You have to empower yourself by knowing what things cost. Get an estimate. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion. Make sure you're dealing with a trusted shop. And the best way to find a trusted shop, again, is your family and friends. But also, again, recommendations like AAA, but watch what happens when you do business there for the simple things like your oil change or your tire rotations. The other point is make sure you choose the right shop for the right job. For example, if you're going to a shop that pretty much does just tire work, and we'll just say they specialize in tire work, especially they do oil changes. In other words, there's a service facility. They're doing a lot of servicing. Well, that's different than a shop that knows how to deal with electronic issues like a check engine light. That's the kind of place you want to be looking at if you're having those kinds of problems. Maybe your shop that you're using for maintenance work is convenient, price is good, nice people, but they may not be equipped to deal with something like, for example, the alternator or starter going bad. That may not be the work they do. So make sure that you look at the wide range of things that can go wrong with your car and try to find a shop that can handle mostly all of it. And that's what you want to look at. For example, if a facility is doing a New York State inspection, well, they're probably equipped to deal with check engine lights, because to pass New York State inspection, your car has to get plugged in, and if there's a problem with it, then that's not going to pass. If it has an emissions problem, for example, so they have to probably want to be able to fix that, or why would they be doing inspections? It makes no sense to me to do New York State inspections and not be able to fix things that go wrong with cars, right? But these are the types of questions you should ask and things you should look at. But I think most importantly, again, we don't give a lot of financial advice here on this show, but if you could squirrel away $50 a month, you certainly could have a cash reserve, so to speak, to pay for an unexpected car repair. Now remember, the other point is, once your car is paid for and you own it, you have to look differently at the ownership equation. So let's say you bought your car new and you put it on a 60-month loan, and it's 5 years old. It's got 60 or 70,000 miles on it now, but it's all yours. You have no more car payments. Well, that's a really good time to take $100 a month and put that away to bank towards your car repairs. Because at 60 or 70,000 miles, again, if you've looked at your owner's manual, it's probably going to need some stuff. You could need a timing belt replacement just as a matter of maintenance. It could be needing tires. It could be needing brakes. And you say to yourself, well, that's a lot of money. Well, yeah, but so was a $400 or $500 a month car payment that you're not making anymore. So if you could, once you transition from paying for a car when you have paying your loan off, so to speak, if you're going to keep it, think of the cars that the next 3 or 4 years of owning that car as a discounted ownership experience. And again, budget for it. If I was making a $350 car payment per month and I got all done making it, I probably could swing $100 a month into my repair fund. Don't you think? That's how you want to look at it. But remember, these costs are very, very high. Shop rates are $60, $70, $80 an hour. The cost to own a repair shop and the regulations and what it takes to fix cars these days are very, very expensive. You really need to have a plan for when something breaks, so you're not just, again, putting yourself into more debt to fix your car.